Speak Daily English. Real English every day.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
You know that feeling when you're speaking English and it feels like you're just, I don't know, scratching the surface?
Mm-hmm. Like the words are technically correct, but something's missing.
Exactly. The impact isn't quite there. Or maybe you feel like you're missing that spark, that connection with the person you're talking to. We've all been there, I think.
Definitely.
But what if there was a way to go beyond just, conveying information and actually resonate with people? Make your English not just fluent, but really memorable.
That's the key, isn't it? Memorability.
Yeah. Think about it, what sticks with you longer. A list of dry facts or a really vivid story about something that happened.
Oh, the story. Absolutely. Every time.
And isn't there something just captivating when someone leans in and starts with, "You won't believe what happened to me yesterday"?
It pulls you right in. And what's truly fascinating is the fundamental way our brains seem to be wired for that, for stories.
Wired. How so?
Well, think about it. From ancient oral traditions, things passed down generations, right up to the movies and books we love today. Storytelling has always been this cornerstone of how humans communicate.
Right. It's not just entertainment.
Not at all. It's a core mechanism. It's how we understand things, how we remember, how we connect with the world, and crucially, with each other.
Absolutely. And that's precisely what we're diving into today. Forget boring grammar drills for a minute.
Right.
We're exploring how strategically using the power of storytelling can actually revolutionize your English communication.
Revolutionize is a strong word, but I think it fits here.
I think so too.
Yeah.
We're talking about not just improving your fluency, like how smoothly you speak, but also significantly boosting your confidence.
And building those genuine connections. That's huge in all sorts of situations.
Exactly. Presentations, job interviews, even just, casual chats with friends, making them more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
So are you ready to tap into this, innate human ability and make it your English-speaking superpower? Let's explore how.
Okay, let's start by clarifying what we mean by storytelling in this context. Because it's more than just listing events in order, right?
Right. It's not just, I woke up, I had breakfast.
Exactly. It's about weaving together your emotions, your personal experiences, maybe some insights you had, crafting a narrative that really pulls your audience in.
Weaving it together. I like that.
Think about the sheer amount of information we're bombarded with every single day. Stories have this remarkable ability to just cut through all that noise.
Why do you think that is?
Because they resonate with something deeply human inside us. They connect on a different level than just facts and figures.
Yeah. And the science behind this is actually really compelling. I was reading some research. Brain activity studies show that while facts mostly just light up the language parts of the brain.
Broca's area, Wernicke's area.
Right. But stories, they engage a much wider network. They activate the experiential parts too, the sensory cortex. It's like you're almost living the story.
You feel it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And get this, studies suggest that information presented in a story can be up to 22 times more memorable than the same info presented as just, raw data.
22 times. That's staggering.
Isn't it? It really makes you stop and think about how we communicate.
And it's not just about grabbing attention in the moment. That research you mentioned suggests these stories create stronger neural connections. The information gets encoded more deeply into long-term memory.
It's like the emotions in the experience act as mental glue for the facts.
That's a great way to put it. Mental glue. And it explains why stories have been such an enduring tool throughout history, right? For passing on knowledge, cultural values, even survival tips.
Our ancestors relied on them.
Precisely. Our brains seem hardwired to latch onto information structured as a narrative. It's probably an evolutionary advantage.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Imagine you want to tell someone how much it rains in London. You could just say,
London has high annual rainfall, average 690 millimeter, pack an umbrella.
Right. Factual, a bit dry, maybe useful, but not very engaging. Now, what if you said something like, "Oh man, my very first trip to London. It was kind of a weather disaster. I stepped out of the hotel, glorious sunshine, totally unprepared. By lunchtime, sky turns black.
Oh dear.
And suddenly I'm sprinting down Regent Street, absolutely drenched, trying to find anywhere selling an umbrella. Let's just say I learned a very quick, very wet lesson about London weather. Now, forecast check, always.
Okay, yeah, much better. You can picture it. You feel the panic, the rain.
Exactly. Which one gives you a stronger impression, a real feel for London rain?
The story, hands down, no contest. And that brings us right to the big advantages of using stories when you're speaking English.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, like you just showed, it fosters a shared experience, even if your grammar isn't perfect or you stumble over a word.
Which happens to everyone.
Right. The story itself can bridge that gap. Listeners get invested in the narrative. They connect with the feeling.
Okay, shared experience. What else?
Second, it provides a natural structure. It's intuitive, right? Beginning, middle, end.
Like a mini plot.
Exactly. It sets the context, things happen, then there's a resolution or a point. It helps you organize your thoughts, and it helps the listener follow along easily. Much easier than just random points.
That makes sense. Easier to track.
And third, as we keep saying, memorability. That 22 times statistic, if you want your message to stick, embedding it in a story is just incredibly effective.
So shared experience, natural structure, and makes things stick.
Got it. So what does this all mean for you, listening right now, trying to improve your English?
Well, I bet a common thought is, okay, sounds good, but I'm just not a natural storyteller.
Right.
A lot of people feel that way.
That's a very common feeling. Understandable.
But here's the thing. It's crucial to remember this isn't some magic talent you're born with. It's a skill.
Like learning vocabulary or grammar.
Exactly. It can be
Yeah.
developed. It could be practiced and refined. You don't need to be, I don't know, the next great novelist.
Not at all.
You just need to learn how to share your experiences, your insights, in a way that connects with people. And that's what we're going to dig into.
Okay, so let's talk about fluency. This is a big goal for many learners, right? Speaking smoothly, naturally.
Definitely. But it can be tough. You get stuck thinking about rules, translating in your head.
Right, overthinking every word, searching for that perfect phrase. It really slows you down, creates those awkward pauses.
Storytelling can really help break that cycle, though. It's kind of like a secret weapon for fluency.
How so? What's the mechanism there?
Well, when you're telling a story, your main focus shifts. It moves away from just individual words or grammar points.
And towards the bigger picture, the meaning.
Exactly. Towards conveying the meaning, the experience, you start thinking more in ideas, in images, which is actually closer to how native speakers process language, less word by word.
That makes sense. Shifting the cognitive load almost.
Yeah. And this shift really helps fluency in a few key ways. First, storytelling just creates momentum.
Momentum.
Yeah, there's a natural flow. First this happened, then that happened, and so
Yeah, it's sequential.
a built-in path forward. Right. It acts like a verbal roadmap. It helps propel your speech forward, reduces those hesitations where you're stuck thinking, what do I say next?
Okay, give me an example.
Think about describing your hometown. If I just ask for adjectives, you might pause, searching. It's nice, pretty.
Yeah, it could be slow.
But if I ask, tell me about a really memorable day you had there, suddenly you have a narrative. Oh, well, one time I went to the festival and I met my friend and we saw. The story itself gives you the structure and the words flow more easily.
Okay, I see that. The structure pulls the language out.
Second point, storytelling naturally activates richer, more authentic language.
How do you mean authentic?
When we tell stories about things that actually happened, we naturally use a wider range of tenses, transition words, descriptive language, things we might not use in simple question-answer drills.
Like past tenses, sequence words.
Exactly. Past tenses, words like after, then, suddenly, while more vivid adjectives to paint the picture.
Okay, another example.
Sure. Imagine telling someone about helping someone. You might say, yesterday I was walking to the market when I noticed an elderly man struggling with his groceries, so I offered to help. He was so grateful he insisted I come in for tea, and he told me these amazing stories.
Right. Look at all those tenses and connectors just flowing naturally. Simple past, past continuous, sequence words.
Yeah. All happening quite naturally because you're focused on the sequence of events, the story itself, not consciously thinking, okay, now I need past continuous.
And this leads to the third point about fluency.
Yeah, and this one's big.
Yeah.
It reduces performance pressure, performance anxiety.
Ah, the fear factor.
Exactly. When your main goal is just sharing something interesting, something meaningful, you naturally become less focused on making mistakes.
Your attention shifts away from self-monitoring every little word.
Right. It shifts your mindset. English stops feeling like a test you might fail and becomes more of a tool for connection.
We had a student once, May, from China. Really smart, knew a lot of English, but clammed up with direct questions. So hesitant. But then we asked her, tell us about your grandmother's cooking. And wow, it was like flipping a switch.
There you
She
go.
just talked for minutes, describing the smells, the sounds, everything. Her English wasn't suddenly perfect, but the fluency, the flow, it was dramatically better.
Because she was engaged in the story, not worried about perfection.
Exactly. She was passionate about sharing it. It highlights this interesting paradox. Focus on meaningful communication through stories, and your fluency often improves as a natural side effect.
That's powerful. So fluency improves, but what about confidence? That's another huge hurdle for learners, right?
Absolutely. You can know a ton of vocabulary, understand grammar, but still feel terrified to actually speak. Fear of mistakes, fear of judgment.
Been there. So how does storytelling act as an antidote, as you say?
Well, several reasons. First, when you're telling a story, you are in control.
Control. How?
You choose the topic, you choose the vocabulary you're comfortable with, you set the pace, you decide how much detail to include. It's your narrative.
Ah, okay. Unlike a spontaneous conversation where anything can come up.
Exactly. And you can often prepare stories beforehand. You can practice them. Having that preparation gives you a sense of security, a foundation.
Like have a little safety net.
Precisely. Second, as we said, good stories create emotional investment in the listener.
They get drawn in.
Right. And when people are genuinely engaged in your story, wanting to know what happens next, they're much less likely to be sitting there nitpicking your grammar or pronunciation.
Their focus is on the content, not the delivery flaws.
Exactly. And that positive reaction, that engagement, is incredibly encouraging. It makes you want to keep speaking, maybe even take a few more risks with your language next time.
That makes sense. Positive reinforcement.
And thirdly, sharing your personal stories validates you. Your unique perspective, your experiences, your background, these are assets.
Things only you can share.
Right. Storytelling gives you a platform to bring your whole self into the conversation authentically. You don't have to pretend to be some ideal, perfect speaker. You can just be you, sharing your world.
We saw this with Roberto, remember him? The executive from Brazil. Super hesitant in meetings.
Oh, absolutely. Very careful, short sentences. Worried about mistakes.
We encouraged him to try framing a point as a story, like about a challenge his team overcame.
And the change was amazing, wasn't it? He started with something like, let me share an experience we had with a similar situation last year.
And suddenly he was more relaxed.
Much more. His colleagues leaned in, they were interested, asked questions. They connected with the experience, not just the data point.
And that boosted his confidence.
Hugely. It created this positive feedback loop. Good interaction, more confidence, better communication overall.
Okay, so here's a practical tip listeners can use right now. The 3 stories technique.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Prepare 3 personal stories. One short, maybe 30 seconds. One medium, like 2 minutes. And one a bit longer, maybe 5 minutes.
Practice them until they feel comfortable.
Exactly. Practice telling them out loud. Then actively look for chances to use them in conversations. Having those ready-to-go stories in your back pocket is a real confidence booster.
It absolutely is. You know you have something engaging to contribute. Remember, confidence isn't about being flawless. It's about communicating effectively despite imperfections.
Shifting the focus from perfection to connection.
That's the heart of it. Storytelling helps you make that shift, and your confidence grows from there.
Okay, so we know why stories work. We know they boost fluency and confidence. Now, the how. How do you actually craft a good story, especially if you feel like you're not a natural? What are the key ingredients?
Right, the practical elements. First and foremost, you need a clear structure.
Beginning, middle, end.
Essentially, yes. Think of it like a mini-movie. The beginning sets the scene, introduces the situation. The middle is where the action happens. Maybe a problem, a surprise, a turning point. And the end provides resolution. Maybe a takeaway message.
Keeps it organized for the listener.
And for you. It provides a simple, familiar framework. Makes it easy to follow.
Okay, like the restaurant story example. Beginning. Decided to try a new Italian place. Middle. Whoa, hour-long wait. Overbooked. End. Met someone cool at the bar. Unexpected connection. Lesson learned.
Perfect example. Simple, clear progression, easy to follow, satisfying conclusion.
Okay, structure. What's next?
Sensory details. This is what brings your story to life, makes it vivid.
So not just the food was good.
Exactly. Instead, maybe the chocolate cake was still warm, really gooey, and you could smell that rich coffee aroma. Engage the senses.
Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch.
All 5. You don't need all of them in every story, but even just 1 or 2 well-chosen details can make a huge difference. It helps your listener really picture it, feel it.
Instead of, it was a nice day, maybe the sun felt warm on my skin, and I could hear kids laughing way down the park.
Yes, much more evocative. Paints a picture. Third element. Emotion.
The feelings.
Emotions are universal. Sharing how you felt nervous, excited, disappointed, relieved creates connection. It makes your story relatable.
So admitting I was so nervous my hands were shaking.
Absolutely. Or, I felt this amazing sense of joy reaching the top. Vulnerability, sharing genuine feeling, makes it authentic. People connect with that.
Okay, structure, sensory details, emotion.
There's
Well,
a relevant point or purpose. Why are you telling this story now?
good question. It shouldn't just be random rambling.
Right. Ask yourself, what's the takeaway? Is it illustrating a lesson? Supporting an argument? Revealing character? Just entertaining. Having a clear point helps the listener understand why it matters.
Ties it all together. And finally,
Appropriate length. This is important, especially in English conversations.
don't go on too long.
Generally, keep it concise. Read your audience. Are they leaning in, nodding, or are their eyes glazing over?
Uh-huh. Yeah, gotta watch for the glaze.
For casual chats, maybe aim for 1-2 minutes. Presentations, interviews, maybe 3 to 5 minutes if the story is really central. But gauge the situation.
Okay, let's try putting it all together. Instead of just, I learned to cook last year.
Okay, elevate that.
How about, before the pandemic, seriously, my cooking skill was zero. Beginning. But lockdown hit, loads of free time. I found my grandma's old cookbook, decided, okay, one new recipe a week, little challenge introduced, first few tries, disaster, smoke alarm, the works, sensory detail humor, but I kept at it. And last month, I actually made her lasagna from scratch for friends. And success, resolution. And when they loved it, asked for the recipe. Wow, felt amazing. Really connected my grandma too. Emotion. Guess it showed me you can learn anything with perseverance. And maybe a fire extinguisher. Point listen.
Much, much better. See, structure, detail, emotion, a clear point. Makes it engaging, memorable.
Okay, so we know the elements. Now, where can we actually use this? Let's talk practical situations.
Great idea. Let's start with job interviews. Often high pressure.
Yeah, especially those. Tell me about a time when questions, behavioral questions.
Storytelling is perfect for those. And the STAR method is your best friend here.
STAR, right. Situation, task, action, result.
Exactly. Frame your answer like a mini story using that structure. Situation. What was the context? Task. What needed doing? Action. What did you specifically do? Result. What happened? And crucially, what did you learn?
So for the tight deadline question, situation, previous role, critical project deadline approaching, task, risk of missing it, action. I organized a meeting, reassessed redistributed tasks, we collaborated extra. Result, met the deadline, and learned about proactive communication under pressure.
Precisely. So much stronger than just saying, I work well under pressure. You've shown it with a specific, structured story.
Okay, interviews covered. What about just hanging out?
Yeah.
Social conversation.
Oh, storytelling is key there for building rapport, making connections.
But you don't want to bore people.
Definitely not. Keep social stories relatively light, relatable, appropriate for the vibe. Travel stories, funny cultural observations, maybe a relatable mishap.
Like the time I tried ordering coffee in complicated Italian.
Perfect. Keep it reasonably brief, watch their reactions, and maybe end with a question to bring them in. Has anything like that ever happened to you? Makes it a two-way street.
Good tip. Turns a monologue into dialogue. What about more formal stuff, like business presentations? Seems risky.
Not necessarily. Stories can transform dry data or complex ideas.
Wow.
You can use a story to illustrate the problem your product solves, or humanize data, tell a quick anecdote about a real customer, or explain a tricky concept using a relatable analogy framed as a story.
But keep it relevant.
Absolutely crucial. Focused, relevant, and supporting your main message, not just a random tangent.
Okay. And for students in class?
Fantastic tool for participation. Connect the topic to a personal experience through a story. Ask a question using a hypothetical scenario. Share a cultural insight via an anecdote. Makes learning much more dynamic.
And just for everyday practice, even alone.
Definitely. Narrate your day internally in English before bed. Describe photos on your phone like you're telling the story behind them. Mentally replay conversations, but structure them more like narratives. Constant small practice.
You mentioned story stacking before. Can you explain that again? Sounds useful.
Yeah, it's great for adapting on the fly.
Yeah.
Start really brief, 1 or 2 sentences.
Test the waters.
Exactly. If they seem interested, ask a question, lean in, add another layer of detail. Keep adding layers as long as the interest is there.
But if they look bored?
Then you gracefully wrap it up quickly, finish the main point, and move on. It lets you adjust the length and detail based on real-time feedback. Super flexible.
Okay, that's super practical. But let's be real. Telling stories in a second language isn't always easy. What are the common trip-ups?
Good point. Let's tackle challenges. Limited vocabulary is a big one.
Yeah, searching for that perfect word.
Don't let it stop you. Use simpler words. Describe the concept if you can't find the noun. Use gestures, facial expressions.
Mine it out if you have to.
Haha, maybe. And keep a storytelling vocabulary list, useful adjectives, transition words. Practice using them. Remember, simple words used well are better than complex words used awkwardly.
True. Okay, what else? Grammar hesitation. Tense trouble.
Huge one. People freeze up worrying about mistakes.
So what's the fix?
Simplify. Often, simple past tense is enough for the main action of a story. Practice retelling the same story to build confidence with the basic structure. Focus on clear chronological order using time markers. First, then, next, after that.
Makes it easier to follow.
And remember, native speakers make small grammar slips all the time when speaking naturally. It's okay. Focus on communication, not perfection.
Okay, vocabulary, grammar.
Wait.
What about cultural references? Jokes that don't land?
Yeah, that can happen. If you suspect a reference might be confusing, just briefly explain it. In my culture, we have this tradition where...
Get some context.
Or focus on the universal emotions in the story. Joy, frustration, surprise, those usually translate. You can even ask, are you familiar with X? Or use comparisons. It's kind of like your holiday Y, but we do Z.
Bridges the gap. What about pacing? Speaking too fast or too slow?
Common issue. Recording yourself is really helpful here. Listen back. Are you rushing? Pausing too much?
And use pauses deliberately.
Yes. Use pauses for emphasis to let things sink in, not just because you're stuck. Watch your listener too. Are they keeping up? Do they look lost? And have shorter versions of your stories ready, just in case.
Good plan. Last one. Memory and organization. Keeping track of the details while speaking.
Can be tough. Try the landmark technique. Identify maybe 3-4 key moments in your story. Focus on hitting those points clearly.
Like signposts in the narrative.
Exactly. Practice telling it different ways. Record yourself. Create strong mental images for each part that really helps recall.
You mentioned that story framework method earlier too. How does that work again?
Oh yeah, super simple, super helpful. Before you tell a story, especially an important one, just jot down 3 key events in order, 2 or 3 specific descriptive words or sensory details you want to use, and 1 main point or takeaway.
Just a quick outline.
Exactly. It's not a script, just a little scaffold. Gives you confidence, helps you stay on track without the pressure of memorizing everything.
These are all really solid strategies.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give people some concrete exercises they can do. Actionable stuff.
Perfect. Let's make it practical.
Yeah.
First up, the photo story exercise.
Okay, grab photo.
From your phone, whatever. Now, tell its story 3 ways. First, factually. This is a picture of X, we were doing Y. Second, emotionally. Looking at this makes me feel Z because. Third, humorously. Make up a funny backstory or exaggerate something.
Develops flexibility. I like it.
Next, daily highlight practice. Every evening, think, what was the most interesting thing that happened today?
Just one moment.
Craft it into a 30-second story. Beginning, middle, end. Record it maybe. Listen back. Build a story bank over time.
Nice. Consistent, small effort.
Then, the retelling challenge. Hear a story, friend, podcast news, and retell it in your own words in English.
Takes the pressure off creating content.
Right. You focus purely on delivery, language, structure. Start simple, work up to more complex narratives.
Okay, what about creativity?
The what if game. Look at an object, your pen, your cup. Ask what if. What if this pen could talk? What if I took a different route home? Make up little hypothetical stories.
Gets the imagination going, practices conditional language, fun.
And the cultural bridge exercise. Pick something from your culture, a tradition, food, custom, and explain it using a personal story.
Makes the explanation relatable, builds understanding.
Exactly. It helps you practice translating cultural ideas through narrative.
Last one.
Vocabulary builder. Take a story you tell often. Get out a thesaurus or dictionary. Find slightly better verbs, more varied transition words, stronger sensory adjectives. Enhance it consciously.
Actively upgrading your language within a familiar story.
Yeah.
Smart.
The key with all of these, consistency. Try just 5 or 10 minutes a day. That regular practice makes a huge difference, much more than one long session once a week.
Totally agree. Small steps, big progress.
Your storytelling will improve with that regular effort, no matter your current level.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, wow, we've covered a lot, but the core idea is clear. Storytelling is a game changer for English communication.
It really is. It's about connection, making things stick, being authentic.
We've seen how it boosts fluency by shifting focus to meaning.
Builds confidence by putting you in control and engaging your audience.
We broke down the essential elements, structure, details, emotion, point, length,
Looked at practical uses, interviews, social chats, presentations.
and tackled those common challenges: vocabulary, grammar, culture, pacing, memory.
Remember, you already know how to tell stories in your own language. That skill is there.
The challenge is just transferring it, right?
Yeah.
Practicing it consciously in English.
Exactly. Practice, awareness, and just being willing to share.
So here's your call to action, your homework, if you will.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, try it. Just weave one brief story into an English conversation, or even just your practice.
Doesn't have to be epic. Something small that happened, something you read, something funny.
Just try it. And notice how it feels, how the other person responds, what you learn from doing it.
And to help you out, we've got that free, downloadable storytelling framework template. Examples, prompts. It's really useful for structuring your thoughts. Link is in the description below.
Check that out. And hey, we'd love to hear from you. Jump into the comments. Share a quick story. How do you use English? Or maybe a time a story helped you connect.
We really do read them and love hearing your experiences.
It helps us learn, too.
So thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the power of storytelling. It's been a great conversation.
It really has. Remember, every truly great conversation, the ones that really resonate, often start with a story. So the question we leave you with is, what will yours be?
And of course, if you found this helpful, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. It helps others find these strategies too.
Definitely. More tips coming your way to help you speak English more confidently and effectively. Until next time.
Speak Daily English. Real English every day.